Hi, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and on this podcast, we're going to talk about some deep stuff. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, and often, the only person who can't see that is you. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you're from, there's greatness in you. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, Dr. Jamil Sayed here, and welcome to the Transformation Starts Today podcast, where I interview leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life as they share their story, the lessons they've learned along the way, and empowering perspectives to help you create an extraordinary life without regret starting today. Today we have with us Tom Paladino. Tom Paladino is a researcher and humanitarian seeking to make a difference in the world by providing people with the education and tools to restore optimal health and by helping enhance their quality of life. Tom began research with Scalar Energy after developing a deep admiration for the father of scalar energy research, Nikola Tesla. He was also able to study the work of an inventor, Hieronymus, who continued research on scalar energy. Hieronymus's major contributions included unbinding the RNA-DNA bonds of microbes plaguing the agricultural industry. The existence of such energy not found within the electromagnetic spectrum fascinated Tom. Inspired by these findings, he pursued a course of study seeking to better understand and subsequently harness scalar energy through the development of an instrument called Scalar Light, which utilizes free energy from the stars. This is going to be a great conversation. Tom, it's an honor to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure. Thanks, Doctor, for the invite.
You're so welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. It's a great day. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Anyone who's tuning in on video, you'll see Tom's got this like glow to him. It's beautiful. And so I'm excited to dive in. And so for our listeners, Tom, who don't yet know you, they haven't heard your story, can you share with us who you are, what led you to doing what you do now, and what inspired you?
I think at the heart of the matter, I am a humanitarian, and I've tried to use my research to bring forward to mankind benefits. I'm all about benefits. I'm all about changing the world by way of this technology, scalar technology. What do I mean? This is free energy. Nikola Tesla, the great scientist, gave the world free energy, and we should have paid attention to it. Well, in many ways, I'm trying to follow up with that idea and present to the world free energy. Now, I've not got it to the point where I can generate the energy for a home, but I can administer this to people and animals, and I'm having great success with this free energy.
That's fantastic. Can you share with us, for our audience who's not familiar with the term, what is scalar energy?
It's not electricity. It's the other energy spectrum besides that of electromagnetic energy. There's actually two dimensions. Scalar energy dimension is the initial energy of the sun and the stars, whereas electricity is a derivative. So I'm working with the initial energy of the universe. Some people might call that source or divine energy. So for the sake of this conversation, we're not going to be speaking about electricity or magnetism. We're going to speak about that other dimension, scalar energy, what some people call prana or 0-point energy. It's very real, and it offers so many opportunities for the world.
That's fantastic. So can you share, what are the effects that scalar waves have in your experience on living beings?
Well, let's consider this. If this is the driving force, the animating force of the sun and the stars, then this is the carrier wave, or this is the information behind the universe. This is consciousness. This is the driving force for all activity in the universe. Sunlight or starlight gives life to the universe. And these instruments can harness that sunlight or starlight. Again, it's not a movement of electrons. It's not an electrical current. So what am I getting at? I am able to control intelligence. I can control consciousness. So my instrument allows me to have some type of dominion, some type of command over nature.
How'd you come about? Is this something that you invented, or how'd you come about this instrument?
The protocol is mine. The invention started with Tesla, another man by the name of Hieronymus, an inventor. I met his family. And I am working with engineers today to perfect, to advance this type of technology. So there's a great deal of science behind this.
Yeah.
And these instruments over my shoulder are an example, or the modern day, if you will, uh, generation of those type of instruments, free energy instruments. So over 100 years of theory and scientific protocol has gone into this. We're at the point now where we can introduce this to the world on a large scale basis.
I think so many of our listeners, especially when they were younger and they were going through school, they've been exposed to Newtonian physics. Can you explain for our listeners what's the difference between that and, let's say, quantum physics?
No, God bless Newtonian physics. And don't take this the wrong way, but it's limited. It's limited to the electromagnetic spectrum, in which you cannot transcend time and space. Scalar energy, consciousness, 0 point energy, ether energy transcends time and space. So you're limited with electromagnetic energy. This is unlimited potential because you're no longer bound. There's no parameters of time and space. So it's a different way of looking at reality. There are two dimensions, there are two realities. This reality transcends those barriers. So, if you will, it affords so many opportunities that electromagnetic energy just cannot afford.
And so can you speak more to that? How can this energy be used, let's say, to help humanity as a whole?
Okay. So hold on to your hats and let me explain. When I work with these instruments, I work with force fields. I work with photographs of people. I don't work with people. Now, if I were to place my photograph inside that instrument, my instrument would send energy into my force field. So it's not a biological process, it's an informational process in which I can access a person anywhere in the world through their photograph. Now, to give you an analogy, we're having a Zoom conference. We're exchanging ideas, we're communicating through our computers. I can communicate with people through their photograph. And I'm working with instruments that animate, that can actually bring to life, can animate a person's photograph. I'll demonstrate how I can take a light bulb and it illuminates underneath this influence, underneath this instrument. That's the type of energy that's being downloaded into a person. So the instrument is so strong, consciousness, it can illuminate a light bulb in my hand.
Yeah, I see that. For people who are listening and not on video, can you just give them the quick background of what you just did?
Yeah, I just demonstrated, I held a light bulb in my hand. The light bulb is still in its factory packaging. And when I passed the light bulb close to the instrument, the light bulb illuminated.
Yeah.
Power went into the light bulb, illuminating the light bulb. Now that's an indication that this laboratory is filled with scalar energy. And if I can illuminate a light bulb, then I can illuminate the brain waves, I can illuminate the chakras, I can illuminate the soul, mind, and body with this instrument.
Yeah, it was really cool to see when you were holding it, it was still in the package and it just was glowing so bright. That was amazing. And there's, this conversation is absolutely near and dear to my heart. I brought up on the show several times, and one aspect of the work I do is facilitating energy work. And I mentioned that to you before we started. So I'm very interested to hear your perspective on quantum energy and healing and how that works from your perspective.
Why does this work? Energy is fundamental. Energy controls nature. What's behind nature? What is the cause of nature? Light, energy. Energy is the first principle. Therefrom, the effect is produced by light. So if you want to go back to nature and you want to have a control, some type of mandate over nature, you do so with light, with energy. The only thing that's fundamental in the universe is light, energy. And our health is dependent upon light. So if we have proper light, if we have the download of corrective light, so to speak, we will have perfect health. Now that's what I'm trying to achieve. I believe disease, I believe any type of medical condition is the wrong information, specifically the wrong scalar information. Scalar energy animates the soul, mind, and body. If we can reprogram the mind, the soul, the body, you will have perfect health, or you're on your way to perfect health.
Yeah. there's a mentor of mine, brilliant physician. His name's Dr. Jack Cruz. Any chance you've ever heard of him?
No, sir.
So
No.
his big thing is light, like you just talked about. And he talks about how we have so many food gurus, but we need light gurus. And the information like you're discussing. And for our listeners, it's amazing what can change in your life if you just got your circadian rhythm optimized, where you actually saw the sunrise, where you actually saw the sunset with your naked bare eyes, and you're getting that download of information like Tom is talking about, and you were outside, and in the evening you're not being bombarded by this artificial light that's mostly in the blue light spectrum that's dysregulating the hormone, circadian balance, all these different things.
Absolutely.
Technology is wonderful with what it allows us to do, but there are some consequences if it's not done safely. And when the human being is so out of balance as a result of the environment, we get sick. And when you get the right information back in, we heal. And it happens over and over again.
That's correct. So let's take, for instance, the circadian rhythm. Why does a heart beat? Where are the instructions coming from? I firmly believe our heartbeat, our circadian rhythm is caused by scalar energy. So scalar energy is responsible for life. Secondly, if you look at a scalar wave, it's a double helix. It looks like DNA. What am I getting at? As a double helix, it programs our DNA. There is a ratio in proportion to a scalar wave that is identical to our DNA. So I believe a scalar wave, which is a double helix, downloads into us, creating the life molecule of DNA, which is the same ratio and proportion, identical. So what am I getting at? Scalar energy programs our DNA. That's how powerful this is. That's how important this is.
So for our listeners who maybe have never been exposed to these topics, and they're sitting here going, okay, this is maybe challenging, this is interesting, how can I kind of make this practical for myself? Is there anything that people can do in their day-to-day life that's going to allow them to benefit from this?
Yes. I've always said this, everybody's a scalar energy expert. Now, going back to my previous statement, if scalar energy is responsible for our heartbeat, so the energy from the sun and the stars, the divine source, is responsible for our heartbeat. It's also responsible for our thinking. So our mind, our heart, our thoughts, our emotions are animated by scalar energy. And when you're in harmony with this divine thought, with this divine intelligence, when you're doing God's will, all is in order.
Yeah.
This is the unifying principle. If there is one unifying principle, and I don't mean to be facetious here, there has to be one and only one. If it's a unifying principle, it has to be light. Well, what is the fundament that we're speaking of? Scalar light is the unifying principle of everything.
First of all, I love your passion. It's so amazing. And I think that when I think our audience can hear this as well and see it if they're on video with us, when we're around somebody who is deeply knowledgeable in their area of subject matter expertise, but there's also a level of passion. Not only is it just fun to listen, but it's just like, I want it to keep going. It's like,
no, I see the great prospect here. For instance, Tesla was able to take light bulbs at his laboratory in Colorado Springs. He would position a light bulb in the ground, and he was able to illuminate the light bulb at a distance with his tower.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? If we could illuminate light bulbs at a distance, then we're going to solve the energy crisis. So what I'm demonstrating locally, okay, within my laboratory, if I can eventually broadcast this energy and illuminate light bulbs at a distance, that will solve, at least in great part, the energy crisis. That's just one of the benefits with free energy from the sun and the stars. This is a paradigm shift. We're not working with transformers and induction motors. We're not working with substations or nuclear power plants or windmills. We are simply harnessing the ambient energy of the universe, and in so doing, we can capture free energy and then broadcast it anywhere we want. So promising, this field of science. Scalar science will change the world.
Yeah. One thought that I'm having that I'd imagine the answer is no, but at the same time, it would be interesting to know. So let's say for our audience, there you are outside and you're just breathing, or inside, you're just breathing in the air, right? And then you're being exposed to, Wi-Fi and cell phones and all these things. In that same way, the scalar energy would be present and it's powering all of, let's say, the devices. Is there any potential harm to that, to the individual?
Yeah. There's no harm with scalar energy. And why do I say that? Have you ever heard of anybody having an allergic reaction to the stars?
No.
No. Any chemical imbalance because of stars? No. Any medical condition that's ever been attributed to stars? No. Why? Because it's free, clean, natural, divine energy. It is the life source, as opposed to electricity, which is a degraded form of light, that some frequencies are harmful. Some frequencies of scalar electrical energy are inimical. So what's my point? You're safe, you're free, you're home free with scalar energy that cannot produce disease. Scalar energy can only produce harmony. It is the unifying force. The reason we don't have that unifying force with electricity, it's not fundamental. It's a degraded form of information.
Yeah. It's fascinating too, because it's one of those things where it's almost like when you're a kid and you get a new toy or something, batteries, hopefully batteries included, right? And it's the same idea that which we came here with, that which was present as we evolved, and however we look at it, is exactly what we needed. And then we come in and hopefully with good intentions and we try to make it better. And sometimes we make it worse along the way for ourselves.
Yeah. So we're going back to nature. This is a miniature star. As I've demonstrated, I can easily illuminate a light bulb with this. I feel that energy right now. It's pulsing.
Yeah.
I feel that energy. So what is my point? If I go back to nature, if I go back to the fundament, if I go back to that animating force, the unifying field, nothing can interfere with that. It's perfect intelligence, and therefrom you'll have perfect health. Now I'm going to make this clear. In many ways, homeopathy is related to my work. Homeopathy is the corrective intelligence of some type of tincture, some type of reagent. How can you offset a disease? With the proper intelligence, with the proper rate, or the proper tincture, or the proper homeopathic agent. Mm-hmm. So what people use with chemicals, or some people use with massage, that's corrective, or surgery. I use light to correct the situation. Light.
I love that. Yeah, the one thing I definitely wanted to ask you, I've done some research on how scalar wave technology can be used to make our bodies, you talk about like harmony, make our bodies more resilient and mitigate some of the damage being caused by non-native electromagnetic fields. And there's certain companies that design devices like that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I'll speak about my work. I like my work because I'm working with the fundament of nature, which is scalar energy. Mm-hmm. Magnetic products, the public has to look at each product and view it and perhaps experiment with it and see if it benefits them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to speak about any specific product, but I will say anything, including what I'm doing, you should at least investigate or experience it once. I give away 15 days of free sessions. Experience it once. Ask yourself, first and foremost, is it safe? And if it's safe, then try it.
There's some people who are probably wondering, why haven't I heard about this stuff? And I know a lot of Tesla's work kind of got hushed. Can you speak to like a little bit of a history lesson for us?
Yeah, the history lesson is follow the money. And I'm not being snide. When a great deal of money can be made through electromagnetic engineering, because you can control that energy, you can meter it, you can harness it, as opposed to scalar energy, which is free energy, in which you cannot make a lot of money. There's no monopoly in free energy. So with that in mind, today we have a number of monopolies that are centered upon that type of technology, electromagnetic technology. So sadly, Tesla wanted to give the world free energy, but the monopolies would say no 100 years ago, and the monopolies won out.
Got it. Can you share with us, like, for the people that you've worked with, what are some results that people can expect? What are some transformations?
Okay, well, consider this. When I work with a person's photograph, it's subjected once again to this energy. Consider how much energy is entering into their force field. If I can illuminate a light bulb, that identical amount of energy is entering into a person's chakras and brain waves. So what am I saying? A person experiencing our chakra program, their thinking changes. They're happier. Some people say that their depression is reversed, or they're no longer have a hunger cravings. Others have said that they're able to overcome alcohol addiction or cigarette addiction. How does that happen? Through the unifying field, through the intelligence downloaded by way of these instruments. So it's quite promising. I'm going out on a limb, but I don't think this is an errant comment of mine. In the future, mental health will be by way of energy, by way of scalar energy. It's perfect instruction. So if you want to have perfect thinking, want to have a perfect mental outcome, a perfect mental attitude, you need to correct that with the unifying field. Scalar energy will correct your attitude.
That's fantastic. You know, there's so much almost like a kindred spirit that I feel with you, because you have that photograph, and that photograph, part of my training in energy work, we had learned, the keys to energy work, there's 2 to 3 depending on who you ask. Clarity of mind, clarity of intention, elevation of emotion. And when I do distance healing, similar to, it sounds like what you're doing, I'll imagine the person, in my mind, and I have the photo in my mind, or I have, let's say, the video, or whatever I'm playing, or I imagine myself in the room with that person. And I've had people tell me, like, I saw you, I felt you, like the pain went away, whatever it was. And I'd imagine, like you said, unifying principle. If it works, it's got to be drawing on that or something like it. And so in your experience, could you speak to that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What you just described to somebody who's religious is prayer. To somebody who believes in consciousness, that's the matrix, or that's the fabric of the universe. Or to a scientist, they might call that quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Or to somebody with just their belief system, they might call that a hunch, or woman's intuition, or clairvoyance. Those statements are all qualities. I just mentioned a number of conditions, but they are qualities. It's a tautology, if you will. So when we're working with this all-encompassing energy, it's all-knowing, yes, and in so doing, we don't have to direct it. We don't have to instruct it. We just have to will it.
Yes.
It's like a prayer. If I pray that somebody's healed, that prayer carries power. It carries the emotion. It carries the unifying field. It carries God's will. This instrument carries information. It's united to the Godhead. So this is what we're getting at. This is unity with God, the unifying principle. We're uniting with all of nature. So there's no division. When you have division, you have confusion. Going back to the unifying field, it's impossible to have disease. Everything is a perfect pattern body. Everything is the perfect prototype. Go back to the prototype, and there is no disease.
Yeah. When you talked about prayer, and I brought up intention, and think about meditation, and you probably are familiar with this. There's some studies that have been done. I think it was in India. I think they had 1 million people in one physical location, all meditating for peace. And when that happened, all around the world, you see crime rates way lower than they normally are. You see all these things going down. Somebody gets diagnosed with, let's say, cancer, and they have all these people praying for them. They do better statistically.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You've heard many people have prayer groups, and they pray for somebody who's sick. And that combined effort will indeed heal people. That's the science behind this. Now, some people say, well, it's just prayer. No, It's scalar energy prayer or intention. And prayer, intention, thoughts carry instructions. And this is why I always caution people, make your life what it is. I've had a great day today. I'll tell you why. I kept my life simple. I have goals. I had objectives. I followed those goals. And I united myself with this unifying principle. I get so much done when I'm not distracted, and I unite myself with God, with the divine will. Yeah. Everybody has that potential, and many people have mastered that. I'm not trying to preach to the choir here. So what I can do by an instrument, everybody who has a mind and a heart can do that, and many people do that on a regular basis. By having a productive life, by getting rid of the nonsense, saying no to the nonsense, and just focusing on what's before you, on the task before you. Don't deviate. Concentrate on your daily. If the world did that, if 8 billion people did that, this would be paradise.
Yeah, I think this idea of focus and not being distracted. And so it's like, oftentimes from the coaching perspective, I might ask somebody, what do you want? And on the surface, it seems like an easy question, but very often people don't know and they tell you what they don't want. And so what's happening when you tell me what you don't want is all of your attention, your focus, your energy is going toward the negative. And then whatever you focus on expands, in your experience at least. So you get more of it. And then you wonder why it's happening.
Yeah, you're right. You have to catch yourself. Don't do that. It's okay to say, okay, that's wrong. I'm going to avoid that. Once you do that, avoid it. Don't dwell on it.
Yeah, when you talk,
you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, when you talked about prayer, is this idea of like meditation for some people has been defined as just like one pointed focus, whether your breath or your just awareness or whatever you're bringing it to. The ancient Christians would refer to meditation as contemplative prayer. It's like all the same idea, but let's say you're praying for somebody, a group is praying for an individual or the world or whatever it is. Is there a unification of the intention, of the thought? And in a way, it's like that old biblical quote, wherever 2 or more or 3 or more are gathered in my name, that's where like the magic happens. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Multiplier effect.
Yeah, multiplier and amplification, yeah.
Yeah, bravo. I'm going to show you a technique that I've developed. And this is how to the point this energy is and how simple. Why is it simple? It's a first principle. I'm working with energy. I've been able to calibrate these instruments in which I can eradicate a microbe easily. I'm holding up a photograph of the human papillomavirus. I can negate the molecular bonds by placing that photograph in the quantum field. So I'll demonstrate. If I were to take a photograph of the human papillomavirus and place it side by side my photograph, everything is intention, sharing. My unified field shares with the unified field of human papillomavirus. By placing these 2 force fields, those 2 photographs in the instrument, the energy of human papilloma downloads into me. As a result, the molecular bonds of the human papillomavirus are subjected to scalar light, and we break apart the molecular bonds. Now, this is very simple and straightforward. Does it work? Yes. Why? There's no human interpretation. My photograph is a photograph of myself. There's no human interpretation. The photograph of the human papillomavirus is likewise. It captures light. So those are 2 sources of light. That's objective. The energy will perform its function on both photographs. That process will negate the molecular bonds of the papillomavirus. It's that simple. It's almost deceptive. What's the point here? I don't have to do any thinking. Even though I operate the instrument, I am not responsible for its intelligence. The intelligence of that instrument will negate the molecular bonds of a virus without any help on my part. This is why this is so important. This is fail-proof. This is easy. It's not me. It's not my intelligence. There's no human reasoning to incorporating 2 photographs inside that quantum field.
Mhm.
No room for human error. And that's why it works.
Yes. I love it because the parallel, one of the things I often tell people, and it's a belief of mine, I've always considered myself since I was a kid, a seeker of truth, like wanted to figure out like how is it actually? And the thing was, when I looked at and observed and read about cultures around the world from different time periods, and they all essentially came up with these foundational principles, which were true in each of these areas. And you go, okay, if all these people, all these cultures came up with the same idea, there's got to be something to that one. And so with that in mind, there's a parallel in what you're describing. And in my experience with energy work, there's this idea that I'm not the healer. I'm the channel, I'm the medium, I'm the conduit, but the energy's got the intelligence. The energy knows where to go. And I can get in the way if egoically I think it's me and I'm trying to do it to you. No, it's flowing through and it goes where it needs to go. And my job is to just be the clear channel and not get in the way. And that to me is it seems like a parallel to what you're describing.
Yeah, God bless. Let me use this parallel. By the way, I have a profound respect for everybody in the healthcare industry, whether you're a nurse or a researcher or a chiropractor or nutritionist. You're using God's intelligence. You're using wisdom, and you're applying that wisdom to improve the soul, mind, and body. That's wonderful. So the animating force is your knowledge in application. With this instrument, the animating force is not my knowledge, it's the knowledge of the unifying field.
Yeah.
So in lieu of a medical practitioner, I'm not a medical practitioner. In lieu of the medical practitioner is light. If you want to operate on somebody, do so by way of light. If you want to perform surgery, do so by way of light. I am a researcher, but I'm not the healer.
Yeah.
The healing energy is from the sun, the stars. This is divine healing.
I noticed so for the video, those on video, it's that tower over your right shoulder, right? Behind you?
Yes.
That's the device.
Yes.
I noticed when you hold the light to it, I can't tell the depth of it, but maybe it's like what, 5 feet, 3 feet, something like that?
Yeah, about 3 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that you mentioned earlier we're not yet at a space where we could project it out, let's say the whole block. But what would that take? Is it just a bigger instrument, or what would that look like?
I have to learn how to amplify the signal. Let's call this 1x. If I can amplify that 1000x or 10,000x, I should be able to illuminate a city.
That's amazing.
Now, what's interesting about this is, keep in mind, when I'm working with a photograph, I only need this one instrument to work with a person, anybody around the world, through a photograph. So the infrastructure pre-exists. What am I getting at? There's no satellite system. There's no relay system. There's no substations. There's no conduit. There's no wires. There's no transformer. From this instrument to the other end of our solar system in an instant.
Yeah.
I don't need an infrastructure. So what does that mean? The infrastructure pre-exists. The energy from the sun and the stars does not need a grid system. We don't need a construction company to create a grid system. The grid system, the infrastructure pre-exists.
Yeah.
So you see how simple this is. Today, you have to drill for oil, or nuclear reactor, or a windmill, etc., or geothermal. You have to harness that energy. Well, why not harness the energy from the sun and the stars that's clean and has no chemicals? And all of the aforementioned energy generation principles rely upon some type of infrastructure, some type of concrete built infrastructure. As opposed to scalar energy, you don't need an infrastructure. The universe is the infrastructure. So we have free energy without the need of an expensive infrastructure. That's the key.
Can you speak to the importance of the photograph? Is it more about to make it easier for you to have the intention?
My photograph, or anybody's photograph, actually is their body double or their soul double. And I've discovered, regardless of the age of the photograph, a photograph always reports a person's immediate constitution. Why? There is no time in scalar energy. This photograph is probably 3 years old. When I place it inside the instrument, it doesn't report my constitution 3 years ago. It reports my immediate constitution. Yeah. Why? In a scalar energy force field, there's only one time, the present moment. Yeah. I am transcending time and space through my photograph. If you were to send me your photograph and your photograph is 2 or 3 years old, it still would find you in the present moment, even though the photograph is 2 or 3 years old. Meaning what? Your photograph time travels.
Yeah. It's like a spiritual thing.
This is a time travel. This is a time travel machine.
I love that. Yeah, it's like a spiritual fingerprint. Just finds you immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, if you have a cell phone, you need a series of satellites and cell phone towers. That's cumbersome. Why not just a photograph? You don't need an infrastructure and it'll find you immediately.
Yeah.
You see how simple this is going to be. And how if we listened to Tesla, we would have avoided all of these mistakes. We did it the long way around. Instead of going from point A to point B, we created this gigantic global mousetrap that doesn't work.
From what you can tell in your awareness of kind of present day global, let's say, politics, are we on our way, or is this still being so suppressed that it's not likely to kind of come to light?
It is being suppressed, but the truth can never be suppressed because people see the clarity of the truth. Truth is reality, reality is truth.
Yeah.
You can't hide that. Not forever. And no matter how much the media wants to manipulate this science, people are intelligent and they can see beyond that veneer. They understand when there's some type of contrivance. People are smart.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. A thought that popped into my mind when every time you bring the light bulb and it lights up when you bring close to the device, is there a way, so let's say right now we had it, scalar energy is everywhere, but is there a way to turn the light off? Or it just stays on all the time?
Yeah, well, see, that's where I'm going with this. Let's face it, we're in an energy crisis right now. When we record this show, the world is still in an energy crisis and will continue to be in an energy crisis. Not just because of the way we generate energy, but how we distribute it. Long and short is this. This is free energy, and it will greatly reduce the cost of distributing this energy or utilizing this energy. I want to get there someday. With God's will, I'll be able to demonstrate free energy to the world. And when we do, free energy is going to liberate us.
Yes.
Free energy, we spend trillions of dollars a year on energy. That we consume resources. We consume so many resources generating energy, electricity, nuclear power, wind power. If we had free energy, my goodness, it would be so much easier.
Can you speak to, I don't know for sure if this is scalar in nature, but it probably is, like Schumann resonance, earthing, grounding, things of that nature. Is that also in the same wheelhouse?
It is. If all instructions come from the sun and the stars, then somehow the sun and the stars are creating and maintaining the Schumann resonance. Now, I'm a purist. I go back to nature. By the way, I walk barefoot every day. I live in Florida and I ground every day. So I want that Schumann resonance. I want to be in harmony with the world, with the earth. So what am I getting at? Go back to nature. I love my work because there's no chemicals. There's no downside. Again, nobody ever had an allergic reaction to the stars. My work is impeccable. It's impeccable because I'm working with the first order, the first principle of the universe, which is the unifying field. Everything outside of that unifying field is disorder, is some type of disruption. If you stick with the unifying principle, it's impossible to have a problem, disease. It's impossible to have some type of mental issue or psychological issue. It's impossible.
And can you just explain to our audience who isn't aware what the Schumann resonance even is?
They're Earth has a natural frequency, a natural resonance to it. By the way, it's been fluctuating. We don't know why. But what is my point? That the Schumann resonance is obviously a God-driven principle. And when we're in harmony with the Earth, not with chemicals, when we're in harmony with creation, we're part of that. So that is in and of itself some type of a unifying field. Now, as opposed to artificial lighting, okay, from computers, from various refrigerators, from various type of appliances, it's been proven that some electrical frequencies are harmful, and even some type of magnetic presence is harmful. So apparently that's not the unifying field. That's not perfect intelligence. If all electrical fields were perfect, then you could live under high tension wires. Well, we know that's impossible. We know that some people who are around high tension wires or who live close to an electrical station suffer some type of autoimmune disease or some type of disorder. Apparently, high voltage causes in some people a feeling of uneasiness or dizziness, or produces an autoimmune disease. So obviously that can't be the unifying principle.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And loving challenge to all of our listeners, so you can get a little background of some aspects of what we're talking about. If you go on YouTube and you type in Earthing documentary, it's a really great, like, hour and a half, 2 hours, by this guy named Clint Ober. And I believe he's an electrician who kind of made this movement more popular in the last, decade or couple decades. And really simple, like Tom's alluding to, if you can take off your shoes and be barefooted on the grass, on the dirt, on the beach, like some type of natural surface, there's actually a transmission of electrons. You pull in electrons into the body, you decrease inflammation, you thin your blood, you boost the immune system, you improve your mood, pain goes down. They have you watch the documentary, you get all this, but you'll see before and after photos of people. They have all this inflammation in their body, pain everywhere, all the red spots, and then they ground for 30 minutes. It's all gone. People sleep that way, it just improves their life. And so, like Tom said, get back to nature. Helps so much.
Thank you. You could extend that. Try not to eat junk food. I think that's obvious now. I'm rather vigilant on that. I only eat products of nature. And we could go on and on. Get a full night of sleep. Why? Sleep is restorative. Sleep will repair. Don't shortchange yourself. You need a full night of sleep.
I feel like this is a perfect time to ask you this, because we're going into now big picture, like kind of life advice. The purpose of the show, like I shared with you before we started, is to help people create an extraordinary life without regret. If somebody was saying, hey, Tom, how do I do that? How would you advise them?
I always tell people, if you want a perfect life, go back to nature. Okay? And it's really inspired by God. Soul, mind, and body. I have a very simple life, but a very productive life. Now, what do I mean by that? Even though I work with rather sophisticated instruments, I always follow the laws of science. I avoid the drama in my life. Today, I had an extraordinarily successful day because I focused on research. I focused on healing people. I focused on the task. I was writing an article today. I kept that focus. I don't think we realize how we're bombarded by social media and how many disruptions there are, which are useless. It's fruitless. Please don't get caught up on that. It's been proven if you concentrate on one subject at a time, you can achieve so much more than trying to multitask 2 or 3 tasks. So when you're at work or when you're at school, focus, keep your focus, think about what you're doing. And if you have another task, wait till that one task is completed to move on to the other task. Now, I know this sounds rather prosaic, but today, in today's world of this hectic environment that we live in, we don't realize how much social media or some type of interruption will get in the way of our scholastic work, our work at the office, our duties at home. I'm very much becoming aware how we are now subject to so many disruptions and so many things that are counterproductive. Try to go back to a simple lifestyle And in so doing, concentrate on one task at a time. You'll be much more successful.
Yeah. Amen. Beautiful, beautiful. If our conversation today, Tom, was your last opportunity to speak with, engage with, interact with everyone listening, what's the message you want to make sure you leave them with?
Be happy. Be happy. That's part of the equation. I had a happy day. I had a few challenges, but I overcome them. And I don't dwell upon the challenges. I dwell upon how happy I am in the outcome. And the way you think and the way you feel, because scalar energy drives your thoughts and scalar energy drives your emotions. And when you can control what goes into your mind and your heart, then you'll have a much better day. You'll have a much better lifestyle. You'll be a happier, more productive person. And it really starts with each individual. You have to take responsibility. I take responsibility for my success, my failures. I had a great day today because I did not let anything get in the way of my thoughts or my emotions.
Something that you just shared about scalar energy driving our thoughts and our emotions. There are people around the world, whether they be clinicians, researchers, who, whether through meditation, guided visualization, whatever it is, by shifting someone's internal state, their emotional state, their thinking, their thought process, and not just one time, but changing like that dominant focus that they tend to have most of the time, it's incredible the physical body, mental, emotional body healing that occurs as a result of that. Can you speak to that?
Yes, because people are self-healers, and people don't realize that.
Yes.
And people can pick themselves up. And your thoughts and your attitude in life really makes or breaks your day, and sometimes your week, and sometimes your life. I've seen people who have adversity in their lives, but they're happy because they program themselves to be happy. And regardless of the obstacle, they have a good, productive life. And I wish everybody would do that. If 8 billion people did that and would self-program, this would be paradise on earth.
Yeah, something that you're bringing up in me. I often tell my clients, not often, I always tell my clients, and I encourage everyone here to take this on as a belief. You are the creator of your reality.
Yep.
And when you can play with the idea, what role did I play in getting to where I'm at right now? How did I create this based on what I did or didn't do, what I said or didn't say, what thought I believed or didn't believe? When you take that level of ownership and responsibility, I love when you break up responsibility. It's the ability to respond. Some people take it as a matter of like blame, shame, guilt. It's not that. It's coming from the space of only I can change my life. And if I'm not happy, if I don't like it, what would need to change? Sometimes it's just my perspective on it. And sometimes maybe there's a boundary to be enforced. There's an environment to move out of and enter into, all these kind of things. But if you take that ownership, it becomes a lot easier to be happy.
I'll give the audience for instance, in our company, our Scalar Energy company, everybody's empowered to make 2 or 3 changes, improvements a day. Now imagine if 10 people are doing that on a daily basis. That's 20 or 30 improvements a day. And I can assure you, we do this on a religious basis. This is why we're so successful.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, we solve it. If we can't solve the problem, we move on. But today I can rattle off 7 or 8 improvements today that I had as a researcher, and that I worked through my website and through articles that I was writing. Imagine that, 8 improvements in one day. If people did that throughout their lives, it would be paradise. If you keep making improvements, you're not going to have many problems left. It's pretty cut and dry if you look at it that way.
Yeah, there's that teacher, I think he's still alive, but I don't remember, but his name's Brian Tracy. And he talked about how if you just committed to be 1% better in a certain area than you were yesterday, it's like, could you do that? And most people are like, of course, like 1% doesn't sound like much. But if you just did that every day, that compounds, it's exponential.
Yes. It's sort of like money in the bank that just over a long period of time, it compounds. It is exponential. So if you can do that with money, and if bacteria will multiply exponentially, then why can't good ideas and why can't a favorable outcome be experienced through our actions? It can. The key is to keep at it. It is cumulative, and it is exponential over a period of time. Absolutely.
Now, Is there anything that you can share with our audience? How can we like get the message out of scalar energy, free energy out, like to increase the demand, to increase the awareness? Can people reach out to their like congressman? Like, what do we got to do here?
I want to prove this to people. So my website has 15 days of free sessions. Anybody in the world can send their photograph in and their family photographs. If you have pets, send your pets in.
Yeah.
You have to experience this first. If you want to have that hands-on approach, then send in your photograph. Let's see how you feel after 15 days. If you think it's of merit, then tell your family and friends. So I've designed my website to accept photographs from everybody in the world. No distinctions, no roadblock there whatsoever. By way of experience, if people say, yes, this works, then it will catch on by word of mouth. Now, bear in mind, I don't have friends necessarily in big media. Big media has never been a help to me.
Yeah. I think for most people who are like seeking down that path of truth, it's usually not that big of a help.
Just to be candid, just to be blunt, it's all people power. It's a grassroots movement.
Yeah. One question that I had, do you find that, obviously there's always a nuance, but obviously there's a unifying principle we're tapping into. So does it 100% of the time you notice people get benefit? Or are there times where they're probably getting a benefit, but maybe they don't notice it? Or is it usually pretty profound, or a bit of both?
All of the above. Some people are very in tune. They see it, they feel it. Within the first couple of days, people tell me they sleep a very deep restorative sleep, because you're balancing their brain waves, you're balancing their chakras. And because of that, people start sleeping quite well. And it's a meaningful, productive sleep. Others don't, they're not so in tune to their body, but it might take them a month or two to feel the change.
Yeah.
The key is this: be aware that this is the first principle. Nothing can stand in its way, so it's only going to benefit you. Whether you feel it the first day or not, it really doesn't matter. You will benefit in some way by corrective energy. Corrective intelligence helps everybody, including your pets.
Yes. I think it's an interesting thing too, because unfortunately, so many of our pets that we've domesticated, they start to get the same type of conditions, illnesses, diseases that the humans get. And it's because if we're living out of harmony with the environment and with the way it's kind of quote unquote supposed to be, so are they, because they live with us. And so then life is getting negatively impacted. Just as a simple example, we talked about earthing or grounding, kind of synonymous words. Imagine the average person. The average person, they wake up in the morning, they get changed, they go to work, and they're wearing rubber-soled shoes, being disconnected from the earth. And they are inside most of the time under like a fluorescent light or whatever it is. They're surrounded by non-native electromagnetic fields. They're not really in the sun in the peak hours, let's say, where they're going to utilize vitamin D production, all these kind of things. They're probably not seeing the sunrise and the sunset, either because they're sleeping when the sun's rising or they're rushing to work, and they're still at work when the sun is setting, or they're driving and they're behind glass, and that glass kind of mitigates some of that benefit. And so you have a person that, just because they're not aware of it, they're just disconnected from the natural rhythm of life. And then you get home and you have the TV, the phone, the laptop, the whatever, and all these artificial lights are coming in, sending information in through our eyes, into our brain. And it's like telling your brain, hey, it's 12 noon based on the light I'm getting exposed to. And it's actually 10 p.m. And then we wonder why I had trouble sleeping last night. It's like, yeah, get back to nature, like Tom was saying.
I think words of wisdom, and thank you. And again, people, take note of your lifestyle and make those changes. It might be a subtle change, but make those changes. One change a day, or maybe one change every other day. Over a course of time, 3 months, 6 months, you'll see a change in your health. You'll see a change in your lifestyle. You have to start. There's an aphorism. What's the best day to plant a tree? Today. Why wait? Make those changes. Any improvement is a step in the right direction. You might say, well, that was only one improvement, so I go to the health club and I take a jacuzzi now once a week. That's monumental. Now, so keep making improvements. I take 2 or 3 jacuzzis a week, and it helps my constitution. So incorporate what you need to do.
Yeah, I love the idea and the actionable step of start where you're at. And some people might say start small, but I challenge it that small and big are just relative, words. There is no such thing as like the big thing. The big thing's a series of small things that you do over a period of time.
Yes.
It turns into a result that you can
Yes.
point to tangibly.
Yes.
Start where you're at with what you have and get started today.
And if you have a good attitude, then it's easy to incorporate change after change, improvement after improvement. If you have a bad attitude, then you start saying no to these improvements. And you got to catch yourself. Don't have a bad attitude. Just whatever you can do, light a candle.
Yeah.
Light a candle.
Absolutely. And Tom, before we begin to wrap up, any other topics you'd like to bring up? Any other things you think would be valuable for our audience today?
Again, I'm going to drive people. Go to my homepage, scalarlight.com. Sign up for the 15-day free session. There's no obligation. You will see an improvement in your health. We're going to balance your chakras with this instrument. We're going to eradicate microbes. We can also create nutrients. I didn't have enough time to speak about that. Visit the website, 15 days of free session. You can prove to yourself how the unifying field is going to help you physically, spiritually, mentally.
People have to tell you what they're dealing with, or is it just the energy happens? Like it just goes by itself?
The energy is all knowing.
Wonderful.
God is the healer. I'm not the healer.
Yeah. Wonderful. So whether it's a nutrient deficiency, a microbe, or whatever, the energy does what the energy does. And then we see. Love it. I love it. And so I will make sure I have all the links to connect with Tom in the show notes. Is there any other links you want to bring up?
No, that's it, Doc. We'll keep it simple. Thank you for your time. It's been a great conversation. And be happy, people. Be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for our listeners, please, I strongly encourage you, listen to this conversation more than once, especially if you weren't really in the wheelhouse of this stuff. It can sound so foreign. I remember when I first heard about scalar energy and things of that nature, I'm nowhere near where Tom's at with it, but like I am aware of it. But when you don't know what it is, it sounds like it's all the way out in left field. And when you finally be with it and you learn from it more and more, and like you take some of the ideas we've talked about, you implement it in your life, starting where you're at. And day by day, like Tom's saying, you'll begin to feel better and better, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and it can be really wonderful. And share this, please share the message far and wide. Like Tom mentioned, this is a grassroots movement. And we want to not only get the word out about what Tom's offering, but we want to also get the word out of just the knowledge of this, because the more that gets out there, the better it's going to be for everybody. And the quicker we get resolution to some of the energy crisis, some of these challenges that we deal with. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up, Tom?
No, thank you. A brilliant conversation. Thank you for your input. I appreciate your time, Doc.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And so as we wrap up here, I said it in the beginning and I'll say it again, my life's work is to help leaders, champions, and high performers to create an extraordinary life without regret. If there's anything you're going through right now, a challenge and or a goal that you have that seems to be 5-10 years out, but you want to make it real in 7, 9, 10 months, I'm your guy. I'd love to have a conversation with you at jamilsayed.com. Let's see how we can elevate your life and get you being the kind of you've always wanted to be. You can book that at jamilsayed.com. Obviously, you're listening to the podcast, so check out all the other wonderful conversations that I've been privileged to have. They've helped me immensely, and they've also helped my listeners, and I know that you'll get benefit as well. And I've been putting content out now since 2014, 2015. There's about 1,000 pieces of content, most of it short, bite-sized. You can sink your teeth into it, get some value immediately. You can find it on Instagram at Dr. Jamil Sayed, DR in my name, and Facebook and LinkedIn are Jamil Sayed. Sending you all so much love. Thank you very much. I call this podcast Transformation Starts Today because I find that most people's favorite day to change their life is tomorrow. And that's why they stay stuck. It's like Tom said, when's the best time to plant a tree? Right now. Because 10, 20, 30 years from now, when you don't have a tree because you didn't plant it, then you're going to be saying, I really wish I planted that thing. Like now's the time to take your health and your life in your own hands. You are the creator, like we said. Sending you all again so much love. Be well. Take care. Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation served you, it would mean a lot if you left a review and shared this with anyone who may benefit. An extraordinary life without regret is available to you now. Choose it. It's your time.